To this session, we have Amanda Willett from CAS here on campus and integrating wellness into the classroom. I do need you to know that the session is being recorded and will be captioned and uploaded to the ETE YouTube channel. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you might want to step out.
Okay. Awesome, thank you. All right, so I will be talking about integrating wellness into the classroom. All right, so I'm Amanda. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, okay. I'm Amanda. I work at CAPS, the counseling center on campus, so I'm the outreach and prevention coordinator there. And then I'm also the director of wellness for the College of Veterinary Medicine. So the agenda for today, I'll kind of briefly go over what the purpose is and some background information. And then obviously a bulk of what we'll talk about today is ways to integrate wellness into your classroom. All right, purpose and background. Why are we here? So these concentric circles kind of symbolize the social-ecological model. The social-ecological model says that there is a dynamic interplay between these various levels of our environment and ourselves as individuals. So as you can see, the individual is at the center, and then it's the interpersonal realm, the organizational realm, the community, and then public policy, right? Kind of getting bigger and bigger as you go out. And so all of these factors impact each other, right? There's always this like interplay that's happening, and for a lot of times, students are facing all of these different factors that are impacting them. And I think a lot of times, especially in mental health, we focus on, okay, you are the individual and you have this problem, so you need to get skills. But really, there are all these other maybe barriers or factors that are really impacting them and contributing to their mental health. And so thinking about the classroom can be a community, right? Or it can be kind of at the interpersonal level. You can see it as either one. We're wanting to foster wellness there, right? Because those are also factors that are impacting their own mental health. And then on here, from the Healthy Minds survey that goes on every other year on campus to kind of get some information about what mental health looks like on campus. And on there, only 7% of students indicated that they turn to faculty or staff when they're struggling with something, which is great that we do have some students that do that, but I also think that there's a huge gap there and that students really could turn to faculty more and they could be of more support. And then just some background information on student mental health. This is also from the Healthy Minds survey. So about 41% of students deal with depression, are students on campus. 34% have anxiety, 16% have suicidal thoughts, 26% have self-harm, and 28% indicated eating disorder behaviors. 27% feel like they lack companionship, and 30% feel isolated from others. And obviously we know college poses like a big transition on students, and transition causes stress, and stress opens up the cracks for more mental health concerns to come into play. And so again, here thinking about the classroom can be community and interpersonal, right? We're kind of wanting to help students feel less like they don't have companionship or that they're isolated from others. And we also know that learning and mental health has a bidirectional impact. So numerous studies have shown that student well-being has been linked to retention rates, learning, student success, and student experiences. And teaching practices have also been linked to well-being as well. I won't read this because you also have my slides, the point at the end. So strategies, what can you do to incorporate wellness into your classroom, right? And really the goal here is how can we create a community of care, right, and a sense of belonging for our students. So first is really building that community, and so that can be peer-to-peer interactions. So first could be having students exchange information with their neighbors around them. I know that that might pose some concerns of like sharing too much contact information, right, or they might be contacted inappropriately. And so that's why I suggest maybe just have an email that students, or their email that they share with their peers. That way if they miss class one day, or they really need a study partner, or if they feel worried about an exam or missed an assignment or something, they have somebody that they can reach out to, right? They have a guaranteed person they can contact. Doing a social connection activity, and this can be at any point in the semester, but I remember being in college and having to stand up, say my name and my major and like what year I'm in. And so instead of doing that, having students really build connections with those around them, like in a small group or just again, kind of their person next to them, and have them share some more like unique information about them. So that way they're really able to connect with those that are in their class. Also, leaving some time for informal connections. Maybe there's some event that has been going on, or there's something that there's a topic you're wanting the students to think about that relates to your material, or even just like a random icebreaker question, giving them some time to just briefly informally connect, maybe for a minute or two. So again, they're building those connections. I'm really trying to use group projects and discussions as much as possible. You know, that does kind of force them into building connections with their peers. And then also maybe instead of asking questions to the whole class and picking on somebody to answer, have them engage in discussion instead. And then community events, encouraging them to go to maybe the fun community events, or probably more so the events that align more with what's going on in the class, like the topics you're going over. And then also instructor to student interactions, right, to build that community. So one is having office hours, consistent office hours that you are there for. I know some universities have suggested that requiring at least like one office hour, so that way students at least meet with you once, they know your face, they might feel more comfortable to reach out to you in the future. But I also think it's about how you frame office hours. Instead of it just being, this is a time for you to come get help, you can also share, this is a time for us to really get to know each other, to build that connection. It's not just for when you need help, it's also for us to build a relationship. Taking time to introduce yourself. I'm sure a lot of you already do this, like at the beginning of the semester. But also really including information that makes you human. You know, it's great to share what your research interests are, or kind of what you do on campus, other classes that you teach. But also I think students really want to know like who you are, right? And of course we don't have to divulge every little thing, but making you more human, because that makes it feel like, oh, I can actually connect with this professor, right? Like they care about sharing who they are, and it kind of eliminates some of that inherent power dynamics that come out between professors and students. And then sharing like challenges that you face and how you've overcome those. Students can also feel like, wow, our professors are so successful and they've never faced any challenges, but really normalizing that challenge is normal, right? I'm sure you all have experienced some sort of challenge, but you're still successful, and so that's kind of helps students feel inspired. Having a variety of ways that students can contact you, right, through email, phone number, whatever it might be. Being mindful of how to help students in distress, right? Thinking about reaching out to a student you notice might be in distress, right? Maybe some behaviors have changed, and really just being a listening ear. I think that's the biggest thing you all can do if students are in distress, is just being a listening ear and then offering resources. But I would refer that you all maybe check out one of the USU Helps presentations. That's a suicide prevention gatekeeper training that goes on a couple of times a year. Engaging in informal conversations with students, right? Maybe before class or after class, or when they come to your office hours, right? Just checking in on them, like saying, how are you? Just talking about how things are outside of the class. And then using anecdotes and humors, right? Using stories, especially your own stories, right? How maybe the material relates to you, or maybe just something that's gone on in your day. Again, trying to make you human as well as with the humor. All right, the next thing is bringing intentional kindness into the classroom. So arrivals and check-in. So having like a 2-word check-in, you can use like poll everywhere or something like that. Just having like, how are you today? And having them like text in or type in just 2 words or 1 word as far as how they're doing. Or it can be just some other random question too, just a way for them to check in and get settled in. Also maybe having a song of the day that you have on as students come in right before you get started. It's just a way to kind of loosen things up a bit. Incorporating mindfulness, so that can be movement breaks right in the middle of class, having them maybe just stretch a second or kind of move around. We know if we sit for too long, we're likely to completely zone out, right? Because we're not really moving our bodies and we're not engaged. So helping them get engaged in some way can help their brain start to be more activated. And also having a standing policy, like maybe you leave the back row or the back 2 rows for students who want to stand. Maybe that's just like ability-wise or what their body needs, but also can help, again, their body be more engaged so that their brains are more engaged. Breathing, taking time to just like maybe breathe when you set into class or breathe halfway through class, right? Just a little bit of a reset, right? Gives them a little bit of a break for them to get reconnected to the material. Trying to encourage self-reflection, having them reflect on themselves, how they're doing in this class, how they can make this class work for them. Self-reflection really helps students understand themselves better, right, and what their needs are. And a lot of times we are really great at ignoring that, and that kind of perpetuates mental health as well. Connecting content, right, again, to your own personal lives or to what's happening outside in the world, or helping them connect the content to themselves in some way, so it feels a little bit more meaningful. And also having a test reminder kind of in the middle of the test. Research has shown that about halfway through the test is where students miss the most questions, because that mental fatigue is really setting in, where they are halfway through the content, but they know that they still have half more. So, I mean, what you could do is maybe offer a point or half a point, and it's just a question, or no points, it's just a reminder of like, take a second to just breathe, take a second to just kind of notice the anxiety in your body or the stress in your body, take a moment to take care of yourself. So that way it can help them perform better for the rest of the exam. And then kindness, incorporating different inspirational, motivational, or kind quotes that you enjoy and images too. Really trying to express your interest in the learner instead of being an interesting teacher. Express and act with understanding, right? I know it can be frustrating when students are asking you a bunch of questions, or maybe a student is struggling and they're coming to you at the last minute, but really trying to kind of shift of like, what is really going on for the student and how can I really understand what they're going through? And then seeing students as humans, right? I mean, they are, of course, but knowing that their identity is not just solely them as a student, right? They have multiple different roles in their life, multiple different identities going on. And so thinking about like, how can I support students having balance, right? Because that's really important to support mental health as well. And so that kind of comes into how much content we're giving them, how many assignments, how many exams that we're giving them. All right, so creating a collaborative culture. So one is being excited, right? Being excited and passionate about what you're teaching. I think obviously some of these things are going to seem obvious, but they do support mental health. If I was up here just talking in a monotone voice, that probably wouldn't be super interesting and you all would zone out and not feel very motivated to do anything. But if we kind of express that excitement, that gets students going as well. Trying to promote psychological safety. Psychological safety is students feeling comfortable to like be wrong and to share what's really going on with them in their environment. And so maybe setting out group agreements at the beginning of the semester, or especially when discussions are going to happen. Group agreements are what you want the class to agree on as far as how do you interact interpersonally when you're engaging in discussion. So that can be like the Vegas rule, what's said here stays here. It can be respect all opinions. It can be make space, take space, right? Being mindful of if you're maybe talking more, take a step back, and if you're not talking too much, take a step forward. Really encouraging students to, and kind of setting that precedent, setting that message at the beginning of, we're here to invest in everybody's learning environment, right? We all impact each other, and so promoting that investment in each other. Promoting empowerment as well, trying to really honor students' autonomy, helping them bounce back from challenges, help build resilience, and help them like make choices if they can, as much as they can. And also having them think about, especially midway through the semester, how can they make this class work for them? And also helping them problem solve themselves, right? Instead of us just giving the answer, helping them use their own skills to learn how to problem solve. And then talking about mental health, right? Whether it's your own or just normalizing mental health exists in the world. That really helps destigmatize and normalize that it's okay to struggle, right? We're all going to struggle at some point. But students tend to think that they're the only ones, right? Or we all do. So really trying to help normalize that. And then respecting diversity, really valuing all of students' input, allowing students to be wrong, right? And gently redirecting them, or again, trying to help them problem solve to get to the answer. allowing space for all perspectives to be there, trying to be as accommodating as possible. I know that that can be annoying, sometimes, at least from what I've heard from my vet med colleagues, but trying to be, trying to honor accommodations as much as possible, because they obviously exist for a reason, and students, students might feel like they're not supposed to have accommodations, or that it's an extra burden to their professors. And then really promoting inclusivity, trying to think about like what representation is in my material, thinking about like who is this normed on? What is this information normed on, right? And maybe we can include a variety of different perspectives, because all of our information a lot of times just is filtered through what our own lens is and our own identity. And so trying to think of what other identities might see with this content. Don't cancel class. So I created some of these modules, and you can find them on Canvas Commons. So there's 6 different modules. You can see the different types of topics there. So they all include like a short video to watch, or a series of short videos to watch, and then an assignment, which is just like a reflection assignment or some sort of like engagement in the material that was shared on there. And so don't cancel class. Other universities use this model as well, as like if you have to cancel class because you're sick, your kids are sick, or you need to travel for some reason that was unexpected, instead of just having them not do anything, they can engage in something else and learn something else, like a resource on campus. But also you can just embed these into your course as like a mini assignment. I didn't like assign really any points. You can determine how many points is on there, but again, you can find that through Campus or Canvas Commons. All right, so thinking about how to integrate wellness into your classroom design. So promoting healthy sleep. We all know students a lot of times lack sleep. That tends to fall to the wayside, and they do schoolwork and hang out with friends first. So thinking about having assignments due earlier instead of midnight. So that helps promote healthy sleep, because also we know a lot of students end up procrastinating and waiting till the last minute, and then they go to bed at midnight or later, and they have to be up at 8 a.m., So helping them engage in sleep, right? And sleep can really be a cure-all for a lot of things and is really a big predictor of mental health. In your syllabus, I also know that there was a presentation earlier about syllabus, but really thinking about making a really clear timeline that doesn't change throughout the semester, having really clear expectations, and having a mental health statement in your syllabus. I know that USU already has one made. If you just like Google USU syllabus mental health statement, that's basically just normalizing that mental health exists and that there are resources on campus and list some resources. Also, you're like using effective pedagogy. I know that with the syllabus pedagogy, these also seem pretty obvious, but they do really make a difference. So just having consideration for different learning styles, trying to incorporate different learning styles and how you deliver that information as much as possible. Using active engagement activities with students, and really thinking about how you're assessing them, right? Trying to assess them in an equitable way so that it's fair for all students. And then optimal challenge, really normalizing the healthy challenge is okay. And again, sharing your own stories of how you face challenges and how you've overcome those. Considering the timing and amount of assignments and exams, of course, we want to promote some challenge because their lives are going to be challenging at some point or another. But also, we don't want to create that undue stress on students. And so really trying to consider how much you're giving them. Promoting a growth mindset, I think especially after exams and assignments, how can you encourage them to really think about like what was challenging about this, what was difficult about this, and then how can they learn from it? And then also encouraging self-compassion. Self-compassion is really, exercising kindness towards ourselves. We're never going to be able to bully ourselves into doing something different. That's not helpful, but we all have that self-critical voice. It's kind of just natural as being a human. But if you think about it, we probably didn't have somebody we looked up to like a helpful coach or a helpful mentor that was like, you suck, you need to do better. But we say that to ourselves. So instead, we're trying to cultivate that voice of how can we be caring but also real with ourselves. And so some questions you can ask students throughout the semester are, at the beginning of the semester, what would you tell yourself about this course and your ability to do this course that promotes learning or that would help your learning? Before an exam, how would you support a friend who is nervous about the midterm? How can you do that for yourself? And then after an exam, what can you learn from this exam? And what can you tell yourself about this exam that helps your learning? And then also I created a classroom campaign. I don't know necessarily if campaign's the right word for this, but it's basically single slides to be delivered once a month throughout the academic year that are like these bite-sized mini skills that students can do to help promote mental health and prevent mental health. So again, I think one, talking about mental health is really important for students to have that be normalized, but I also think it's really meaningful coming from professors. Of course, the therapist that comes into the room is going to care about mental health and want students to care about it too. But I think it's more meaningful coming from you all because they end up looking up to you, right? They're with you for the whole course. And so there are some slides, they're all scripted and they have like very detailed information as far as like how to deliver that information. All right, so that's all I have. I kind of talk really fast, so I apologize for that. But does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Challenges with all your kids is helping them build resilience.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have thoughts on that?
On how to help students build resilience?
Yes. It seems like when a problem comes up, it's instantly, well, I have anxiety, anxiety. I have any mental health. Versus, you know, maybe if we just teach a little bit of resilience and doing something is better than doing nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that helps them get past that hurdle versus
Exactly.
there's so much out there that says negative things about all the problems you know they have, and we kind of we're all doctors because of Google now. Half the time our diagnosis of ourselves is completely wrong because we don't understand how to do it right.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would, what comes to mind, oh, sorry. So the question was how do you promote resilience with your students? And so what comes to mind for me is if a student is coming to you and wanting some sort of accommodations or something, or saying that they can't do X, Y, Z because mental health would be, okay, how do we make this a bit more manageable, right? Maybe this seems really big. So how do we narrow it down, right? Or how do we make this like into steps, right? Instead of them maybe feeling overwhelmed, right? I think really what they're saying is, I'm struggling and overwhelmed and this is really hard for me. And so trying to help them problem solve, but give them ideas too. So that can be like breaking the assignment down into pieces. It can be thinking, okay, well, this is the expectation, right? Or like, you know, we have to take this exam or we have to do this assignment. How do you think you can make this work best for you, kind of knowing your limitations? So again, really trying to encourage them to problem solve their own problem, but you can also offer ideas as well. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I just have a comment. Thank you for your presentation. I agree with you on showing students kind of your personal maybe life a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just maybe other roles that you play outside the classroom, not just the teacher role. Kind of like the student perspective. When I was a student, and I sometimes would come to my professor's offices, and sometimes I would see, you know, like different pictures from their families and kids, just playing and having a good time. So it really helped me, to see that in them, not just to look at them as a teacher, but to look at them as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, the comment was, should I repeat that? Yeah, okay. The comment was that it was helpful for one of the participants in here when they learned about their own professors being humans. It helped them build that connection. I think I had seen a hand up in the back. Yeah.
Could you do like a little last slide, please? I'm not sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it okay if I ask a question?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about sharing with students like your personal experiences about maybe going through anxiety or depression, or maybe opening that a little bit to the students?
Yeah. The question was, what are my thoughts on like sharing your own mental health experience with students? I think it's really great. I think it's really important for students, again, to know that it's normal to experience these things, especially for like, they see you all as like, successful individuals. And so a lot of times they can think, well, I'm never going to be like that because I'm struggling with this. But I think it's a delicate dance of not divulging too much information, but just enough, right? So I think of the case, and this is maybe a little bit of an extreme case, and maybe a trigger warning here is, self-harming might have been something you struggle with, and so not saying like I self-harm for you know, this many years and I had to get stitches and all that, but just saying something like, oh, like, you know, I've struggled with, you know, thinking about self-injury and engaging in it, and this is how I got over it. So not divulging too much of the details, but I think it's really important to like name your struggles and share like how you've gone through that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think to follow up on what you just said, there's something great not only about normalizing mental health challenges, but also to show that you can persist through it.
Mm-hmm.
So I read an article because I'm teaching a first-year class, and they said incoming students that homesick and worried about making friends and just all the anxieties with coming into college. If they have an older student, junior, senior, whatever, that just says, hey, that's totally normal, and it gets better. So it's that kind of ability to say, whatever hard thing I'm doing right now, it will actually improve it if I can persist through it.
Mm-hmm.
And look at this junior or senior that did, and they're going to graduate now. And so it helps them to say, I don't want to drop out of college, or this is too hard, or whatever. Like, they're going to be able to persist.
Yeah.
If you're kind of communicating that, you can do that as a faculty, or even better, get other students to help by sharing, hey, I felt that too, and it does get better. And the second year's easier, or whatever it is, or this class, as you start to learn the content, it'll get easier, right? Or something that helps them understand you can persevere and that you're resilient and all that.
Yeah. The comment was that it's really helpful to share with students that, you know, we can persevere through mental health. And so there was an article about older siblings having gone through mental health, that it was helpful for their younger siblings to hear that because they can persevere. That's an example. And I think that kind of goes to the question that was asked of building resilience, of really normalizing that, yes, it's okay to struggle with mental health and we can persevere through it, right? That's just one aspect of you, and it doesn't have to be all encompassing, right? And we can also work around it and be kind to it at the same time. Other questions or thoughts? Yeah.
Something that I do is I have student resource days. So I have like all the resources on main campus, and then I go as far as the United States, right? So like the new texting number for the suicide hotline. And I teach, this semester I'll be teaching all online. And so I put that in there so that the students know that there are resources, whether they are here on main campus or whether they are in Alaska taking classes. And I think that has been helpful to students, because I can just say, hey, go see that. If they're like not feeling well, right, I'm like, hey, go see this resource. And that's just like a home base for all of that information.
Yeah, the comment was really having resources available for students to access both on Logan campus and nationwide. Okay. Yes.
With your Don't Cancel class, are those designed for like an online class or for a face-to-face class?
I really think it's designed for both. I think it can be used in both realms, because, I mean, all the activities are online based, right? There are videos that are linked to our CAPS website, or the counseling services on campus, and then the activity or the self-reflection can all be done. It's just like a personal experience, or you're kind of writing your own self-reflection. So I think it can be done in either way.
And thank you for those resources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, if there's no other questions, I appreciate you all being here today. Here's my contact information if you have any questions, especially with the slides, if anybody scanned that. If there's any issues or you want to give feedback or something, that would be great as well. But thank you all.